Welcome back. So today we would be discussing our strategy number 3, which is tech and competition. One out of the 5 ways to build your product wisely. So let's start with this topic. This is a very interesting topic and we tend to make mistakes over it. So let's first talk about what do we mean by tech and competition. If you ever have an experience of building out your product, or if you're talking to someone to build out your product, do you know why you are using a specific technology to build your product? Or is that those resources or technology were pitched to you, or it you don't even know about it? It was like those were the resources available with that XYZ company or that person. As a product owner, you should be very confident in your product, and that can only be done when you know the reasons why something is happening, and which can only be done by proper science and proper logics. I have seen products failing not because they haven't invested their time or resources on it, like they were doomed right from the start, because the important decisions which were important for their product were done or were not given due diligence attention. So you need to have proper attention on selection of tech and how the competition is working out, because you don't want to be putting crutches on your product every now and then. That makes your product rigid. So let's see how we can implement this thing. This particular strategy is also divided into 3 steps. One first step would be selection of the best suited technology. How can you do that? So very first step, before moving ahead or going anywhere, you need to plan on what technology would be best for my product. You are seeing the screen and you can see what questions we can ask. First of all, you should divide your product into multiple features. Every feature, so every sub feature would help you out in knowing what are your exact needs of the product. Your whole product has a base need, but every specific feature has different needs. So you can talk about if you need automation or do you need serverless architecture, depending upon the feature use. So these type of questions can help you out in selection of the right technology for your product, and not just implementing any technology. Because I have seen that if you start putting crutches on your product in the future and your product becomes rigid, I don't think you would be ready to build everything from scratch. And after the problem occurs, you and the crutches or the fixes we do, your product is going out of the line and it has lost its dynamic nature. Dynamic implementation of a feature is just lost in that product. So give due diligence attention on selection of the technology, and it should match out your product selection criteria. Coming to the step number 2, which is market and code standards, or market or competition standards. So now you have your technology with you. Now you need to study your competition. What technology or stack your competition is using, why it is using it, or if it is stable or not. Because there are chances they could also make a mistake, right? It's not always that your competition has the perfect set of technology. Nothing is perfect. So you need to study them and what are the current market prevailing standards available. Because if you have standards in place, you have competition standards in place, it would ensure that your product is being built out on proper standards. Because it's a tendency of developers to lose these standards when workloads come in, and that's very common tendency, very common. And you can easily get lost and you can forget standards when you're developing fast. So make sure you have proper standards in place, you know your competition, why you are having such a standard, and what you are following. And if we talk of standards, actually, let me tell you one more thing. So the selection of tech stack and standards is just not limited to the code. It includes your cloud, your storage retrieval, your server architecture, your distribution, or even your testing structure. It includes every step. If you talk about technology, it relates to everything we are using in our product, not just the code. Remember that. So that was our step number 2, which was about standards. Now coming to step number 3, which is distribution and periodical reviews. So now we have our standards with us, we have right set of technology, we need to work on how the distribution would work out and how we would be reviewing our product every now and then. So if you talk of distribution, you could be using edge computing or some classic balancers. All depends upon the use of your product. Everything depends on the use of a product, but there is a problem. I have seen still right now in this current era, people using old same obsoleted structures in their distribution. And trust me, product owners do not even know what they can do with the distribution architectures. It's so much more advanced right now. You can reach users. You can do so much faster caches. Like it could enhance your product experience. So always give attention on what type of distribution is suiting your product. And sometimes it won't be like always that it, like it won't be always like the latest the technology it would suit your product. It depends upon what your product requires, what are its needs. Then come the periodical reviews, the very important part of what we have still talked right now in this session. So periodical reviews refer to the code reviews, testing reviews, structure reviews, life cycle reviews, everything. In fact, storage reviews as well. Because as we talked about in strategy number 2, which is that developers tend to lose their tendency on like keeping the standards in place or following the right structure. So we need to have periodical reviews and make sure what we planned ahead of time is still in place. It's not gone, because even if you started something from a proper standard, but when you are in between and you lose that standard, your base would be gone. And trust me, when your base is not strong, how can you think of users accepting your product? Leave every aspect aside for now. Just think of your base. And if your base is not strong, trust me, chances of failures can increase. This is Rohan Girdhani, your Sherlock Holmes. Happy learning. See you in the next session.